One of my kids turned 4, one of my kids turned 2, like, you know, they haven't really remembered many of their birthdays at this point, so I'm trying to make a memorable experience, and yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I have a very, abnormal video, I'm gonna say, for you guys, which is basically showing how I made the birthday cake for my kid's birthday that just passed while we've been in quarantine. I've made 2 cakes in the past that I'm like pretty proud of. Like I made a Spider-Man cake and I actually got paid for that one. And the other one, my sisters and I made it for like a church event and it took us legit like 8 hours to make. That was a pretty good cake. Anyways, this cake that I was making, this was like the by far most ghetto cake I have ever made. I started off by just like throwing some box cake mix into the mixer, 2 box cake mixes. Even though some people say this is a vegan cake mix, I didn't make it vegan because, you know, I got my eggs and stuff. So anyways, we got the eggs, we have the water, we have the oil, and then we just throw that all into the mixer. Okay, so basically after I threw all that in, I mixed everything together and I got some crazy idea to make them in these big cookie tin like pans. I was just thinking about this video that I saw on PBS Kids when I was like 10, and this kid was making Argentinian blood cake and he used like cookie sheets, and I was like, I can do this, I can make a big sheet cake. And I wasn't thinking about the fact that it was going to be extremely flat. I just kind of floured up the pans and that took a while, I'm not even gonna lie, like it took quite some time.
Hi.
Also, just don't mind the background noise because my kids are working out.
Hi.
Anyways, then I started pouring the batter in, which you would think that my mixer mixed properly, but it didn't. So of course I had to grab my own whisk and like hand whisk it to like perfection. I was thinking the whole time that like this is terrible because, you know, what if the raising agents are all on the bottom and they didn't get mixed in and like half the cake's flat and half the cake is like not, and I was like, no, you're overthinking it. I wasn't. The cake came out like trash. But we can always make trash good because you know that saying that like one man's trash is another man's treasure, so we ate that treasure. I ended up pouring the remainder of like all the cake mix into the sheets. What I didn't think about was the fact that one of them was all like wrinkly on the bottom, like not like old people wrinkly. It had these like little divots inside of it. Thank you, buddy. It had these little divots inside it, which I really should not have baked a cake on that, but I did. So yeah, there was that. While they were in the oven, I decided that I was going to make the food because I don't want to like wait and everything. So I was doing this whole cleanup as I go thing, so I've wiped off the oven like 5 times by now. But yeah, you've seen all that. So I got this tofu that I basically just coat in flour in a Ziploc bag and like shuka like that, throw it down onto some parchment paper and threw that into the oven. Then the next thing that we're gonna be starting to do is making the icing, which I have never ever made icing before that turned out good. Yeah, so the icing, consistency is looking good and everything, and I like tasted and it's pretty good. When the cakes came out the oven, I tried to release them from the pan, which...
Hi.
Okay, so when the cakes finally came out of the oven, not really finally, it only took like not that long. So when they came out, I tried to release the first one from the pan. I was like using a little knife, butter knife, to try to like take all the stuff off of the edges to like loosen it up. And then I took it over to the top of the deep freezer. I use like every surface in the kitchen, so I like very smartly decided to just take the whole pan and dump it upside down onto the cutting board like it wasn't gonna crumble into 1,000 pieces. It just didn't for some unknown reason. That that would be because it was still stuck to the bottom of the pan. Somehow I got this crazy idea to just use a spatula, and I started using the spatula to pry it all up, and it actually worked out well. This time I actually took the cutting board, put it on top of the sheet, and flipped it upside down, and everything worked out. I decided that since that worked out so well, I would do the exact same thing with the next one. And then the tofu was done. I decided to really quickly saute it up with the vegetables and everything. I'm a really easy cooker. Like, if you tell me that, you know, these chocolate chip cookies need 2 bowls to make, I'm going to make them in 1 bowl. I was using like a mixed vegetable bag from Costco. These vegetables came out of the deep freezer and they were all stuck together. So here I am bashing them apart with this big spoon. Don't mind that flying broccoli. It still got eaten. All was well to set aside and go back to our icing, which was now blue. I put a little bit of food coloring in there without getting it on my hands, and I was pretty proud of myself because as a kid, whenever I used food coloring, it was on my hands for days, and that was just ridiculous. So I was pretty proud of myself, I'm not gonna lie. I then decided to ice the cake that was on the cutting board, so I just put like a very thin layer of icing. I was trying to be frugal in the fact that I only had a small amount of icing at the time, and I didn't know if I had enough ingredients to make more. The only butter that I had left was in the freezer, and I really didn't want to use freezer butter because I didn't have time to thaw it, and I didn't think that putting it in the microwave would give it the same icing consistency that I needed. I did a very thin layer of icing, like so thin that I was wondering if I should have put more, because would you even be able to see like that layer of icing when the cake was cut? But that is not even our biggest worry right now, because the second worry was when I took that other layer of cake and put it on top of that thin layer of icing. Lord have mercy. It was a very crunchy, crusty, old, raggedy piece of cake. Like, it was thin and crispy, like, I don't know, like a Jamaican patty crispy. And like, that's not the kind of thing that you want for a cake. So I was kind of freaking out, I'm not gonna lie. Then I got an actual brush and started brushing it off like some archaeologist digging out dinosaur bones or something. Like, it was kind of tragic.
It's a cake. Crumbs. Cake's not supposed to be crusty.
It was crusty, crunchy, like unattractive for a cake. I was like, this is a disaster, but you know what? I had no more cake mix, so there was nothing else I could do. And the night was not young, so birthday needed to be celebrated very soon. I remember this lady who said that if your cake comes out dry, I really don't know if she was talking about this dry. I mean, this was like an obscene amount of dry, but I figured that it is like lotion for a cake, so it should work out. So anyways, basically she made a simple syrup out of water and sugar, she said. And then she like sprayed it on there with this bottle. Not really spray, but it kind of leaked out like it was like a food grade watering can or something. I didn't have a food grade watering can, so it was really watery, I'm not gonna lie. I think hers looked a little bit more syrupy, but I put them in a salt and pepper shaker and ended up like hosing it over my cake like this.
I just put hot water and sugar.
And actually, it did do a good job moisturizing, and it all looked like it was going to come together. The biggest problem after that was the moment that I decided that I was going to need to cut this cake in half and put it on top of each other, like stack it on top of each other, because it was so long. And I really should have thought about this before I soaked it, because that made it all the more hard to move it, like way harder. So of course I cut the cake in half with a bread knife, because what is a cake but sweet bread? So I cut it And then I tried to lift up one side, but it was breaking apart like nobody's business, okay? Then I tried to pick up the other side, and it was breaking apart like nobody's business too. But I was just like, just forget it, and I picked it up anyways with my bare hands like some caveman style thing. But anyways, so I did that and stuck it on top of the other side, and it really looked like some type of terrible. I mean, you can see it for yourself. Like a good chunk of cake got left on the other side because now it was all like moisturized and stuff. You know, you always have to like position yourself properly before you lotion, and I really should have thought about that before I lotioned the cake. So then I picked up that scrunchy, like that mound that was stuck there, and I kind of just shoved it back into its side. Since I did that, I would just do this other technique that I found on the internet called dirty icing. No.
The crumb coat.
Crumb coating. So I ended up using all the icing that I made to cover this cake fully with icing to hide all the imperfections, which it really didn't do, but it did like conceal all the crumbs. I then put it inside the fridge for a good hour or so, long enough to feed Ark because he was getting pretty cranky at this point. While I was in the fridge, I decided to make a whole new batch of icing because, well, we needed it. So I got that butter out the freezer, and I decided to just stick it in the bowl. So the mixing bowl is actually metal, so it really wasn't doing anything for melting that butter at all. It was melting super slowly. So when I came back 20 minutes later, it was like possibly colder than it was before. I really don't know. I decided to just go ahead and start mixing the junk out of it. You can't see that because my camera died. So at the same time, while I was waiting for the icing on the crumb to like get cold, I was charging the battery of my camera. I made icing out of frozen butter, and it actually turned out okay, except for the fact that there were a couple chunks of unmixed butter, but who doesn't love butter? So it was fine, right? So I took out the icing, put it all over the cake, and things were actually starting to look good. Everything was going well, the crumbs were staying where they were. The only thing that I didn't like about the cake at this point was the fact that there was like these little, you know, ripples in it and stuff. So I saw this other hack on YouTube a long time ago where someone took like a paper towel and did this like on top of the paper towel to get those ripples out. Well, yeah, it didn't work. It just ended up getting a whole bunch of like icing on the bottom of the paper towel, and so I just tossed that away and started doing it again with...
The paper towel's usually damp.
Well, the paper towel's usually damp. Then I decided that I needed to decorate the cake. So I took these dandy marshmallows, cut them in half, and started putting them all around the cake. The first marshmallow that you're seeing, I actually tried to roast with my sister's lighter because I couldn't find anything else. Then I decided, one, it was too much work, and two, it looked ugly, so I only kept that one singular roasted marshmallow on the cake. And everyone was wondering what happened to him, but it's okay. It's your and my secret, you know? So then I realized that I needed to write on the cake, happy birthday or something like that. Now, I forgot to say that it was not only Claymore's birthday, it was also Caleb's birthday, and we were going to celebrate Liam's birthday on the same day. So it was a triple birthday all in one. I then remembered that I had no piping bags, just like tips and stuff. So next best thing was a Ziploc bag. So I decided to get that Ziploc bag, and I cut it way too big, but I thought I was gonna be fine. So when I was actually piping it on there, you can see that there are globs of like icing coming out the sides. And I thought, oh, it's fine. I can like Mr. Miyagi catch the fly in the midair before it drops. You know what I'm saying? But
what's about to fall?
Missed it on the second one, so I ended up having to make that smudge into a balloon. And then I decided to write out everybody's names in mini dandy marshmallows, and it turned out okay for the most part. Like, I mean, legible if I tell you what it says, you know? Like, it's one of those things where you can't make it out, but then when somebody says, oh, that's Caleb, that's Clay, and that's Liam.
Okay.
Now you actually see it, right? So the cake ended up being pretty much a success, but yeah, I thought the whole thing was going to fall apart when it got cut open. But I decided to make sushi because we had all been craving sushi for a long time. And so we made sushi. Well, I made sushi, avocado sushi, cucumber sushi, and there was some sushi with carrots in there. So yeah, avocado, cucumber, carrot sushi. Everything was put together. We actually got to celebrate in a timely fashion, and the cake didn't look as terrible as I knew it to be.
Hey, it looks like it's made of clay too. So
It's really tasty.
Good.
And this is what happened when we cut it open. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to destroy
Alright,
the
let's
cake.
play some music in the meantime for the cake cutting.
Oh dear. For what?
Because you're watching.
That's from cake cutting.
Wait,
Mom, I hate those videos.
I think Caleb is not digging it.
Oh Lord. Those beautiful layers, though.
Let's not be that crummy.
No, it's terrible. This is probably the good side.
How much do you want to give the boys?
You know what?
It's gotta have a big one.
Wait, if I get this?
Yeah, okay, I'll like we have icing.
You don't want that?
Please don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And tap that notification bell. Thanks for watching and see you soon. More
Don't ever say
videos
that.
coming
She's very
soon. Stay
talented. It's
tuned.
just annoying.